So I talk a pretty good game, I like to think, on these videos and in other places about thinking better, about not letting my emotions control me, being rational, being logical, knowing my blind spots, acting in a way in which I believe is the right way to act, the better way to act, thinking better, being better, etc. But it's so important for me, for everybody, but for me, to remember that this is a journey, a never-ending journey, and that I'm constantly reminded of where I fall short on doing that, and to be aware of those instances, to try and improve on those instances, and to try and use those instances to learn and to empathize. Because as I've said so many times before, it's so easy to look at other people and point out all the ways they're doing it wrong, or the things they should be doing differently, or being so baffled at how somebody could think that way or do it that way. When all of us, or I guess I should just speak for myself, I do it way more than I'd like to acknowledge or admit. And today was an example of that. A kind of random, just everyday example, but that's the point. One of the motivations behind me doing these videos and trying to think better is my family. Family is important to me. My wife, my son, trying to be a better husband, a better dad is part of what motivated me. I mean, in all honesty, I probably started on this journey 6 years ago, and that was my son 6 years old. So I think there's some overlap in that for sure. I say that because the instance today that reminded me that I still have a ways to go involved my son, my family. So as a lot of people, there's always a lot going on during the day. There's work, there's family stuff, there's personal stuff. You're trying to do exercise, read, whatever it is, make these videos. And, I am the type of person that when I guess two things that I've observed about myself. When I am overwhelmed, when I feel like there's a lot on my plate, I get frazzled. I get my emotions take over. I don't think the way I want to think. I don't act the way I want to act always. And so that's point one. Point two is that when I haven't done or fulfilled the things I feel like I need to fulfill in the day, also again, my emotions can take over. I feel like I'm behind. I feel like I need to get caught up, and I just don't feel at my best. So two kind of related points. So today, the day kind of got away from me a little bit. There was a lot going on today. My son had a dentist appointment this morning, and then, I had to take him to his camp. I've mentioned before, my wife has some health issues, so, always kind of helping her around the house, was working, bunch of stuff like that. Then we decided to go out to dinner because we haven't been able to do that in a while. So we went to a restaurant and ate, and I hadn't exercised yet for the day. So that was something that I knew I needed to do. So that was on my mind. So I was already a little bit, to those 2 points from before, there was a lot going on today, so a little bit overwhelmed, and I knew I didn't do one of the things I wanted to do. So when we got home from dinner, I said, listen, I'm gonna go for a run. I wanna get that in. And it was something I had to do, so I went. When I got back from the run, so my day was already a bit behind then, because I went for a run a little bit later than I normally would have, and we were getting into the time of, shower, pajamas, brush your teeth, get ready for bed, do all that stuff. And I knew as I was walking into the house after the run, I already had it in my mind that I was a little bit behind on that. And there was still a bunch of stuff that had to be done, and I needed to take a shower, so overwhelmed, feeling like there's stuff I needed to get done that I hadn't gotten done yet. So as I came into the house, we have a cat. We have a bunch of animals, but one of our cats, for an unknown reason, sometimes likes to go to the bathroom, poop, not pee, right in front of the litter box, not in the litter box. He does it from time to time. We don't really know why. But anyways, I say that because as I walked in the door and already had all this stuff going on, the cat had decided to do that. So there was poop on the floor, smelled it as soon as I walked in. My wife told me, like, hey, the cat did it again. And my son was, up and about and moving as a 6-year-old is, and he was, all fired up just in general, and he was telling me about something that he had done earlier in the day and all this stuff. And I was like, I've talked before about cursing and stuff like that, and in so many words, I was like, just leave me the F alone. Like, I just walked in, I'm sweating, we got to do a bunch of stuff. The cat shit on the floor, you're in my ear yelling. I literally just walked in the door, right? And there's a part of me now that recognizes it as I'm doing it, but not enough in this instance, right? I just kind of let it go. And, I was kind of nasty to my son, a little bit nasty to my wife. He was just trying to tell me a story about something he thought was cool. And I was like, dude, I don't care. At this moment, I don't care. Just, do what you need to do. Go brush your teeth, do whatever. And simply put, like, I just wasn't the person I wanted to be in that moment, right? And a lot of people would look at that and say, like, all right, like, you're a parent, it happens. I know it does, right? I'm not, claiming that I'm the worst parent ever. I'm not trying to over dramatize it by any means, but if you look at it objectively, nobody did anything wrong in that moment, right? My wife, my son, the cat maybe, if anybody, but certainly from my son's perspective, he didn't do anything wrong, right? I arguably mismanaged the time in my day. I have a personality flaw or a character flaw, whatever you want to call it, where when I get overwhelmed and feel like I'm behind on stuff, I lose a little bit of control. I have a bit of a temper at times, right? That was what happened. He was just being a 6-year-old, right? And all the other events that were playing out were just normal events. I failed. I wasn't the one that was able to control my mind, to detach, to see that my emotions were taking over, to see that something was triggering me and to stop it. So again, is it a mortal sin? No, but it's an opportunity that you need to own and identify and hold yourself accountable for and try and be better. We're never going to be perfect, but try and be better. It's just the perfect example of that, where I look at it now and it's obvious. And, I went and took a shower and then apologized to my son after, to be like, hey, listen, I was just totally mean to you for no reason. You didn't do anything wrong. That was just me, because I want to own it. And I could see that now. I know that now, right? I probably knew it right after. I probably knew it in the moment, but I couldn't control it. And that's just an example of how hard this thing is, right? You'll see me on these videos talking about all sorts of people that have political or social views and how they get caught up in that and they get so certain, or they let fear take over and emotions, and they have these blind spots and, we have to be better. This is just another example of how hard that is, right? It's easy when it's easy. It's hard when it's hard. It's easy for me, right? When it's an easy situation, when it's something I'm relatively detached from already, if it's some political issue that matters to me, but I can remove myself from it, it doesn't trigger me in any way like that, I can think logically about it all day. When I'm talking about somebody else, again, detached, can think logically about it all day. Even if today had been a good day, right? And I had been on top of everything, and I went out just to get the mail and everything was feeling great, and I came back in and the cat shit on the floor and my son was going crazy, like, okay, no big deal. But it's hard when it's hard. And this was hard. Everything was stacked up in a way in which I was being tested, frankly, and I failed. And, again, the takeaways for me are, you gotta own it. You gotta identify it, own it, and figure it out. You gotta figure out, how can I be better next time? What was it that I missed? Should I have tried to prep myself a little bit more before I walked in the door and be aware that, like, hey, I'm a little on edge here. Let me make sure I try and control this. When I saw that the cat shit on the floor, should I have just kind of went in the other room and took a few deep breaths to calm myself down? Whatever it is, you got to figure out a way to keep control in those moments. Because if you can't keep control in that moment, who's to say when the next one's going to come up where maybe the stakes are even higher? And I would argue the stakes are pretty high when you're dealing with your son and your family. Like, you shouldn't dismiss that and think no big deal. But what if the stakes do become even higher and I fall victim to that again? And then lastly, as I mentioned, I think just so critical to use it as an opportunity to learn and empathize, to use it as an opportunity to say, the next time I see somebody else doing it, to not jump to the conclusion or jump to judgment and say, look at this person. They can't even control their emotions. Look at them. How do they not get it? How do they not understand? You have to think better. You have to be aware of this stuff. Well, I don't either. So when I'm in that conversation, when I'm talking to that person, whatever it is, hopefully this allows me to step back and say, like, hey, let me I've been there. I've been in those shoes. What would calm me down? What would work in this conversation, if anything? Maybe nothing. Maybe I just end the conversation and say, hey, let's pick this up when you're in a better spot and we're both, able to better talk. Or maybe I just have some ability to empathize and communicate a little bit more effectively. Whatever it is, point of this video is partially, like I said, just to hold me accountable and call it out and say I have a ways to go. But hopefully maybe a little bit of a learning for others too, that, don't be afraid of these instances when these things happen. Our tendency is to justify them, to tell ourselves it's okay, like no big deal. It was okay to catch shit on the floor, or, you were so busy today, or your son was being particularly annoying. Nah, don't lie. Don't lie to yourself. Your mind wants you to do that because it feels better. But that's where that mental toughness comes in. Don't take that easy way out. Don't bury yourself. Don't over dramatize it. Call it what it is. Learn from it. Think better. Be better next time.